is where we make our stand.
I'm writing this script right now instead of preparing for a debate against a flat earther who's supposed to show up in an hour and a half. This is what the argument has come to. I don't need to prepare. I've spent 3 years studying the flat earth talking points, and I haven't had to do more research in a long time. They haven't updated what they have to say at all. They still say water is level and flat, despite everything, including the existence of tides, contradicting that statement. They still say all photos of Earth are CGI, despite dozens of photos from the Apollo missions predating CGI. And then, of course, there's that old chestnut about how a pressurized system cannot coexist next to a vacuum. Problem is, everything we know about the atmosphere and its relationship with space, that's right, it points to the globe. So to start with, let's explain what the atmosphere is. Most people understand the basics. The atmosphere is layers of breathable air that separates space from us here on Earth. But how does it work? What keeps the air in? Well, the answer to that is the big old inescapable G. Gravity! An atmosphere is retained by the gravity of the body it surrounds, like the Earth, and is more likely to be held in place if the gravity is high and the temperature of the gases is low. Our own atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, less than 1% carbon dioxide and argon, and trace amounts of other gases. Other planets in our solar system have their own atmospheres, but they're all radically different from that of the Earth. Mars, for instance, has a very thin atmosphere compared to ours, and is composed largely of carbon dioxide. Venus, on the other hand, while having a similar composition to Mars, is extremely dense, making standing on its surface the pressure equivalent of being 3,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. So, why does the atmosphere point to the globe? Well, it's all about that sweet, sweet pressure gradient, baby. Our atmosphere has numerous layers to it. From the ground up, it begins with the troposphere. At 20 kilometers, we enter the stratosphere. This is where Felix Baumgartner made his famous freefall from. At 50 kilometers, we're in the mesosphere, the coldest part of the atmosphere. At 85 kilometers, the thermosphere. Here, ultraviolet radiation causes a steep increase in temperature, and this is also the point where the Aurora is, the International Space Station, as well as most satellites. If you're confused, the thermosphere is a big layer, ranging from 85 kilometers to around 690. This is also where space begins, indicated by the Kármán line, found at 100 kilometers. This is a somewhat arbitrary definition, as technically there isn't an exact point where the two switch. This is a progressive gradient, caused by the weight of air above the measurement point. As height increases, that weight becomes less and less. This is something we can observe ourselves, which, as usual, is important. On a basic level, we experience this when we drive a vehicle up a steep hill. The reason your ears pop when you do this is because of the change in atmospheric pressure. As pressure decreases, the air trapped in your ear pushes on your eardrum, and then two small channels connecting your inner ear to your throat equalize that pressure, causing the popping. On a larger scale, we can also observe this when mountain climbing. It's fairly well known that it becomes harder to breathe the higher one gets on a mountain, and this is because the air is thinning out. There's less oxygen around for you to take in. It even reaches a point where, if you're high enough up, you actually need an oxygen tank to stay conscious. So, the known pressure gradient raises a question that flat earthers simply cannot answer. At what point does the air stop getting thinner, and why? The answer, simply put, is that it doesn't. It continues to become thinner and thinner until you reach the vacuum of space. This is also something we can observe for ourselves. I've used this footage before, but I'm going to do it again because it's a spectacular video. This is the launch of the Atlas V 551, filmed from the ground by Reds Rhetoric. Reds has, on dozens of occasions, filmed rocket launches from the launch pad all the way to fairing separation and beyond. I love this one in particular because it shows us practical evidence of the end of the pressure gradient. The important thing to watch here is the gases escaping from the end of the rocket. As the rocket gains altitude, the gases begin to expand wider and wider, as the air is becoming less dense. Eventually, the air becomes so thin that the gases expand to a point where they can no longer even be seen. This is the point at which the rocket enters the vacuum of space. More or less. Remember, it's not a solid line of separation, but a gradual gradient. This phenomenon also isn't exclusive to this video. Here's a few more rocket launches showing the exact same thing.
There's the sun, right there. There's Miko. Second stage ignition.
Whoa! Red, are you serious? That's nuts.
2, 1. We have ignition and we have liftoff of NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter as we continue to explore the mysteries of the red planet.
So, to sum up, an atmospheric pressure gradient doesn't work on a flat Earth. First of all, the reason the gradient even exists is due to gravity, which flurfs don't believe in. They cannot explain why the air becomes thinner with altitude, and they cannot explain why this would suddenly stop once you reach that mythical firmament. Everything points to the globe, including the air around us. Thank you all very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel, which is Dead Kennedy in Space. As usual, my name is Kevin, and I'll see you over the curve, Space Cowboys.
To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish